I received a phone call one afternoon when I was 16 years old, a phone call that would alter the rest of my life. As I answered, the voice on the line informed me that my mom had been in an accident, and that they were unsure if she was going to make it. As I arrived at the hospital later that day, I found out what really happened. My mom was silently fighting a battle no one knew about, and in a moment of weakness, she attempted to take her life. One may ask how they can diminish such occurrences. The answer is simple. Be informed about the signs and risk factors, be an advocate, and donate to aid in research efforts to prevent suicides. I'm going to speak specifically about the benefits of the research done by organizations dedicated to preventing suicide. It is with this research that many individuals are finding peace and hope despite their illness. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention reports that suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. With this increased incidence of suicide, the U.S. also faces large economic setbacks. Again, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention indicates that suicide costs the U.S. $44 billion annually. Think about how much money the American people could save if they were to donate some money to research to prevent such expensive needs from insurance and healthcare providers. Mental illness is often the underlying cause of suicide and suicide attempts. More than 90% of children who die by suicide have mental health conditions, according to the National Alliance on Mental Illness. In addition, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention mentions that mental health conditions such as depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, borderline or antisocial personality disorder, psychotic disorders, and anxiety disorders are also risk factors for suicide. Mental health isn't the only factor affecting suicide risk. Historic factors also put someone at risk for suicide. Historic factors that affect suicide risk include previous suicide attempts and history of attempts in blood relatives. Dr. Pinkin reports on a recent study and finds that familial loading for suicide attempts may affect rates of transmission as well as age at onset of suicidal behavior. Kin also states that family history of suicide should be established in the assessment of suicide risks. Not only does suicide pose physical risk, but also economic ones to society. As mentioned earlier, suicide and mental illness have a severe impact on economic stability of a country. The Center for Disease Control mentions that the average suicide costs $1,164,499. This number accounts for medical and work loss costs. Research suggests that improved continuity of care would likely reduce the number of subsequent suicidal attempts following a previous non-fatal attempt, according to Shepard and colleagues. Despite these risks for suicide, there are several organizations that strive to help prevent suicide and mental illness. There is no simple solution that prevents suicide. However, donations to suicide prevention organizations aid the deterrence of future suicide. Becoming an advocate or better educating yourself in the signs and risk factors of suicide can assist in finding a solution for this worldwide problem. We may have a difficult time understanding the thoughts of those affected by mental illness, but being able to visualize the repercussions of suicide can help us better sympathize those battling illness. In your hands, you hold a piece of paper, and on this paper, you will find facts and statistics about suicide. However, these don't always motivate people to donate. Now imagine a picture of your mom, brother, or friend on the piece of paper, the word obituary across the top. Sometimes issues like this don't seem real until you place yourself or your loved ones in the same situation. Taking the time and money to make a donation to a suicide prevention foundation may save the life of someone you know or love. Many risk factors for suicide, like family history and mental health, open our eyes to the issue that stands. Not only does suicide threaten lives, but has impacts on the economic stability of society. Advocacy may be our most powerful tool next to monetary donations. Whether you can afford to make a donation or not, being an advocate to those battling suicidal thoughts may make all the difference. Key research being done also aids in our efforts to understand suicide and its prevention. As this speech comes to a close, I urge all of you to open not only your checkbooks, but your hearts to those fighting mental illness. Be kind to everyone you meet. You never know what battles they are silently fighting to overcome. At the end of the day, I ask that all of you be an advocate, a glimmer of hope in the lives of those who combat their own thoughts every day.